Hello everybody, my name is Hayo Yanga. Today I'm going to be talking to you about sponsorship, family sponsorship. A lot of you are aware of the family class category sponsorship that Canada accepts. So you know that you can sponsor your spouse, be it your common law, your conjugal, or your partner. But there are other categories that most of you do know, and you also know that you can sponsor your parents, your grandparents. But recently, we do know that the parents and grandparents category is going through like the lottery system. So you have to show your expression of interest. Then if you get lucky, you get called and you submit an application. If you do meet the requirements, then you're able to sponsor your parents or your grandparents, or if you want to just sponsor one. In terms of the spouse's sponsorship, you know that you can sponsor your spouse if they are in Canada or they are out of Canada, and you do know that you don't have to be married to be able to sponsor your partner if you're in a common law relationship or it's a conjugal relationship. So what's the difference between common law and conjugal relationship? So common law relationship is that you have to be living together for a minimum of 6 months. So that's the requirement. That's the minimum requirement. You have to live together for a minimum of 6 months. There are other things that need to be considered if you're submitting an application under the common law. I strongly recommend that you have a bill or you're paying in the house. So let's say the electricity bill, or let's say cable bill, or whatever bill it is, just make sure that you're contributing to the home. One, if there's no child involved, you have to be able to prove that the relationship is genuine and it's not marriage of convenience. So I can't emphasize this enough, and I'm going to say this. You will hear me say this all the time, because once an application is being submitted, the first thing the officer is looking for is this a marriage of convenience? So what that means is the applicant being with this person just for the purpose of being in Canada or getting a Canadian permanent resident. So that's the first thing that the officer is looking at. So you're trying to prove beyond doubt that no, I'm not getting married, or I'm not in this relationship for the purpose of permanent residence. I'm in this relationship just because I am in love with this person. I am in a relationship with this person. I'm ready to take a journey, a life journey with this person. So that's one of the major things. I particularly like the sponsorship program, and that's one of my areas of expertise, just because that's how I became a Canadian permanent resident as well. I was being sponsored by my spouse. I came in as a student, and I got married to my husband, and he sponsored me under the family class sponsorship. So it's one of the areas that I really like looking into, and I've helped quite a few people come to Canada through this way. It's an interesting journey. I like to hear people's love story. Sometimes I become a marriage counselor in the process. So it's an amazing journey that I really like to walk people through, and the smile on their faces by the time they call them to submit their passports is priceless. It just warms and gladdens my heart all the time. So that's the spousal sponsorship. Then in terms of conjugal is a bit tricky, and you have to be very careful when you're submitting an application for a conjugal relationship, because conjugal relationship means you are in a relationship but you cannot be together. You are in a relationship and you are not married. So now you have to prove to the officer, you have to tell the officer why you are not married. Let me give you a scenario where that could play well for you. So for example, I'm Catholic. I was previously married to a Catholic person, and we can't get a divorce because of our culture or our religion. So I do understand that in some countries that as a Catholic person you can't get a divorce. So you're stuck to this person, and you cannot get a divorce, yet you cannot remarry somebody else because you're still legally married to this person. So in that scenario, so let's say for example, I'm from a country whereby I can get a divorce. Now a Canadian, luckily for me, came to my country where I do reside, and we fell in love, or we met in the different country on vacation, and we fell in love. This Canadian is back to his or our country, and now we kept on communicating. We are still in relationship, and now the love is getting stronger. Now we decided that, okay, I think it's time for me to come into Canada. So now this Canadian is saying, I want to bring you to Canada as my partner, but unfortunately we cannot be married. you're legally married in Philippines. Now you cannot come to marry me in Canada just because, first of all, you're legally married. Second of all, you can't even come into Canada. So in such a situation, it's a good ground on submitting an application for conjugal. So that's just one example. There are other reasons why you could submit an application under the conjugal relationship. So that's one. And the parents-grandparents sponsorship, we all know it's a lottery system. You submit an expression of interest. It opens once a year. If you get called, you submit your application. And if you're eligible, you meet all the requirements, then you submit the form to sponsor your parents or your grandparents. And your child, you can sponsor your child anytime. It could be your biological child. It could be an adopted child. Those are the categories that you can actually sponsor under the family class. The other categories that are not really being mentioned that really you can also sponsor, which is what I'm going to briefly explain today. So it's called the you can sponsor your extended member family. That is your siblings, either your brother, your sister, your nephew, your niece, or an adopted sibling. But this person you're going to be sponsoring must be 18 years or younger, right? And this person must be an orphan. So if you do have a sibling and you don't have a parent anymore, like you've lost your parents, then this sibling can be sponsored, provided that this sibling is now married, the sibling is 18 or younger, and the sibling is an orphan. So in a situation whereby, oh, we just cannot find the mother or the parents are not in the child's life, no, that person is not eligible to be sponsored under this class. So that's one category. There's another category that a lot of people don't know about, is the lonely Canadian category. So what does that mean? I'm going to use myself as another example. So for example, I'm in Canada. I do not have a child. I do not have a spouse. I do not have a sister. I do not have no family member at all. Canada allows me to sponsor anybody that is blood related to me to come into Canada under this category. So it's called the lonely Canadian category. So if you are in Canada, you must be a Canadian permanent resident, older, or a Canadian citizen. You can sponsor any adult in your family to come under the lonely Canadian category. Right. So and this family member, if they do have children or they do have their family members, they can also come along with them. So they are not exempted. So you can submit an application for every one of them to come. But you as the sponsor must not have any family member in Canada. You must not have any family eligible out of Canada to be sponsored under the family member class. So back to my example, I'm in Canada. I do not have a spouse. I do not have a child. I do not have any family member. In Canada, I must not have a child out of Canada that can be sponsored. I must not have a spouse outside of Canada that can be sponsored. I must not have anybody outside of Canada that falls under the Canadian family class that can be sponsored. Then if I do meet all of these requirements, then yes, I can now sponsor somebody under the lonely Canadian category to come into Canada. So I do hope this short video is able to help you understand who you can sponsor under the family class category. So I'm just going to quickly recap and summarize the categories of people that you can sponsor under the Canadian family class. So you can sponsor your spouse, be it in Canada or outside Canada. So that means your spouse can be inside Canada or can be outside of Canada. You can sponsor your spouse even if you're not married. So that means if you're in a common law relationship or you're in a conjugal relationship. Common law relationship means you're living together for a minimum of 6 months. In Canada, you're living together. Conjugal relationship means you're not living together, but you're in a relationship, but you must be able to prove that you are in a relationship for more than 6 months. You can sponsor your child. Okay, there's another thing I need to clarify. So if you have a child and by the time you have that child, you're already a Canadian citizen, that child is not eligible to be sponsored. So that child can actually apply directly for a Canadian citizenship certificate. So for example, I'm a Canadian citizen. I have a child. I have a child last year. I was already a Canadian citizen. But the child, for some reason, I cannot have that child in Canada. I have that child somewhere else. So that child is eligible to apply for a Canadian certificate. So I don't have to sponsor that child. All I just have to do is submit an application. It's just $75 and apply for a Canadian certificate for that child. But if I do have a child, let's say I have a child last year and I was a permanent resident, I am not a Canadian citizen, I'm a permanent resident holder in Canada, and for some reason I have my child out of Canada. Now I can sponsor that child at any particular point in time, provided that I do meet the eligibility requirements. Other categories that I was talking about is the extended class family. So for example, you have siblings, nephew, niece, or adopted siblings that are 18 years or younger and are now married and they are orphan. They are eligible to be sponsored under that category, extended family class category. If you're a lonely Canadian, you do not have any family member in Canada, and you do not have any family member out of Canada that can fall under the family class category, then you are able to sponsor an adult family member outside of Canada, and they can also come with your family. They can also come with their family into Canada. If you do have any question about this category, I know it's kind of all mumbo jumbled up, but if you have any question about it, please leave a comment. I will go through the comment section and I will answer your question, or you can send us an email at info@assistus.ca. You do realize that the email has changed, like I mentioned before. I'm not sure if I mentioned it at the end of the video, but More Immigration and Assistus Canada are now one. So we will go under the umbrella name Assistus Canada Immigration Services Limited. That's what we will go by. So I'm going to leave the email at the end of the video. Send us an email or leave a comment, and I will be answering. The questions in the comment section. Or if you send an email at a convenient time, I will respond to your email, or one of our experts is going to respond to your email. And I wish you all the best in your journey to migrating into Canada. Remember, even if you're not going to use the help of a professional or an expert, please, I always recommend do your research. Don't just submit an application. Ignorance is never an excuse. It's never an excuse. I cannot emphasize that enough. I have seen too much ban for reasons being like, oh, my agent asked me to do this. And be careful with the agents you use. I tell you all the time. You do not have to use an expert to do your immigration process. Honestly, you don't. If you're not going under the entrepreneurship class, I recommend if you're going through the sponsorship, you should use an expert at least for a review. But if you're just doing a TRV or express entry, you can do it on your own. If you do decide to use an agent, the least you could do to yourself is use somebody that is knowledgeable. Use somebody that is licensed. Use somebody that knows what you're doing, right? And you can always verify everybody's identity, right? So, I wish you all the best in your journey to migrating to Canada. Remember, your interest is my interest. If you're successful, I am successful. That's just my game. It is priceless, the joy I see in my client's face by the time you're being called to submit your passport, or you're being called that you're eligible. It's priceless. I'm always happy. That's the best part of my application, right? I know I do request for a lot of documents, but it's for your own good. I don't like coming forth and back and saying, oh, something is missing. Just give me everything I want up front, then we'll submit your application. I hope to read your comments, and I wish all of you best success in your application. I wish you all the best in all that you do, and I hope someday I get to meet some of you in this journey or thereafter. Talk to you guys later. Thanks.